All right, this is chapter 1 of #BridgeIT. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's a thing that ever has, by Margaret Mead, is the opening quote. Hello. I am looking for people who are blending traditional healthcare and integrative tips or techniques, IT, and how you bridge it, IT. Not a person named Bridget. I'm not looking for how you, I'm looking for how you do it. How do you bridge it? Let's use an example. If I have a sinus headache, I might use over-the-counter nose sprays and a neti pot. I do something quote-unquote traditional and quote-unquote holistic. I may go to the doctor to see if I have a diagnosis of a sinus infection. If so, I may use antibiotics to knock it down so I can keep going with my life. But I always follow it up with immune-boosting supplements, continue with the neti pot, essential oils, and probiotics. Get it? Bridge it. How many of you do this too? I am hoping to start a movement by uniting those of you who bridge it and start educating each other on ways of staying healthy. But what if we went further and gathered research on your wellness habits and advocated bridge it to doctors, hospitals, and insurance companies? What if we could grow as big as AARP and show how you bridge it? We could advocate with the insurance company to have you get lower rates. Let me introduce myself. My name is Teresa Callard Moore. I'm a holistic psychotherapist in Flint, Michigan. What is a holistic psychotherapist? Well, I'm an outpatient counselor for mental health, but when I ask someone when they come in for an assessment about depression, for example, I ask them about all their health habits. Their body and their brain are out of whack, and I try to work with them and get them back into balance. And based on my own journey, I directly see the benefits of a holistic or integrative medicine approach. Side note, the politically correct term that providers prefer is integrative medicine, but a lot of people still use holistic, so I use that phrase interchangeably. Anyway, I'm writing this book because I want you to know that I've been trying to change our healthcare since 2009. I've come up with ideas that would shift your health back into your hands and hopefully improve the health of your family, your community, and our country. I started this book before the crisis of the coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic started. However, there has never been a more appropriate time to use integrative medicine as a prevention and recovery. All right, on with the introduction. It involves sexuality. I was in high school when I wrote to the American Associations of Sex Educators, Counselors, and Therapists, and I asked them how to become a sex therapist. All right, maybe I have your attention now. What does sex have to do with health? Well, everything. If your sexual health is a reflection of your overall health and wellness, I was the girl in high school that everybody came to and asked about birth control, pregnancy, oral sex, you name it. I realized I had a calling, so ASEC recommended I get my bachelor's and master's degree in social work, and every paper I had to write, I wrote it about sex. So I plan to continue to do that here in this book. If that didn't make homework more fun, I didn't know what would. I wanted to name this book Crunchy Mama's Sex and Healthcare, but I decided to go with Bridget anyway. Here is another part of my personality. I thrive on working with populations that most people don't want to work with. Taboo, disadvantaged groups, typically. I got my master's degree in social work by the time I was 21, and my internships were at Planned Parenthood in the hospitals. I worked on an AIDS tuberculosis unit, which is a respiratory isolations unit, and that was back in 1991. Back then, AIDS was still really frightening. People were very scared of it, and I worked with tuberculosis as well, which is airborne illness, and that feels very familiar to the corona pandemic now. Let's see, but back then, the HIV, oh, no, sorry, I lost my spot. I was talking about the unit. Since I work with HIV and tuberculosis, which is an airborne illness, the coronavirus pandemic feels very familiar, but much worse than HIV epidemic because the person had to have, the contagion was transmitted by blood, sexual fluids, or breast milk. This is very different. Coronavirus is very different. Okay, so now imagine this, a 20-something single woman trying to date back in the 90s, and when guys would ask me what I do, I'd say, oh, I work with HIV. I work with AIDS patients. They didn't like that very much, and I didn't get very many dates either. So then I tried, well, I'm a sex therapist, and they didn't like that either. So I dove into my work. I worked with AIDS patients, or people with HIV is the correct way to say it, and in Miami, Seattle, and Detroit, and Flint, until I opened up my private practice in 1996 as a sex therapist. Working in this field brought together sex and health for me, and I could see the healthier we were physically, and emotionally, spiritually, mentally, the better sex gets. We'll get to more of that later. Let me tell you a little bit more about me and how I came to the point that I wanted to help you, your family, your community, your state, and your country become healthy and well again.